Welcome to another chilling tale here on Deadscape Diaries. In today's video, we're going deep into the heart of a secluded forest, where a seemingly harmless hike takes a dark turn. Imagine setting out for a peaceful getaway only to find yourself lost in a forest that seems to bend the laws of nature, trapped in an endless loop, hunted by something far worse than mere shadows. This is the story of a couple's descent into a nightmare where the trees aren't the only things watching. Get ready for the endless trail. It was meant to be a weekend escape, just the two of us, a long hike through a secluded forest trail, surrounded by nothing but trees, nature, and each other. A few days of peace and quiet away from the noise of the city. But as the sun began to dip behind the trees, I realized that this escape was anything but peaceful. I could tell from the moment we set foot on the trail that something felt off. The air was dense and heavy, almost like the forest was holding its breath. Maybe I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the trees were watching us, their twisted branches like gnarled fingers reaching out to grab us. My partner, Sarah, laughed off my unease, calling me silly for letting my imagination run wild. After all, it was just a forest, right? We had started on a marked path, a well-known trail in a quiet, off-the-map nature preserve. The path had been wide, well-trodden, with markers every 100 yards or so to reassure hikers they were on track. For the first hour, everything felt normal. Birds chirped overhead, the soft rustling of leaves was all that could be heard, and the occasional glint of sunlight through the trees gave the forest an almost magical glow. But then something began to change. The trail markers started to blur. At first, I thought I was just seeing things. We'd passed one marker, a simple wooden post with a painted red arrow, only to walk for what felt like a mile and find another post, identical to the last one. There were no distinct signs to mark our progress anymore. I shrugged it off, thinking that maybe we had gotten lost in the woods a little bit, but Sarah insisted we were still on the right path. As we pushed forward, the air seemed to grow heavier. The once cheerful sounds of the forest faded, replaced by an eerie, almost unnatural silence. A slight fog began to roll in, curling around the trees like something alive. My steps slowed, and I tried to ignore the growing unease gnawing at the pit of my stomach. But then we came to the first of the strange symbols. It was carved into the trunk of an ancient oak tree, an intricate swirl, twisting and turning in a way that didn't seem natural. Almost as if the tree itself was marking our path. It was out of place, not something you'd expect to find on a hiking trail, yet we both stopped to stare at it. Sarah tried to laugh it off, calling it a forest art project by some weird local, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the symbol was watching us, as if it knew we were here, knew we were trespassing. "Let's keep moving," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. We pressed on, but the symbols kept appearing. They were etched into the bark of trees, sometimes carved into the ground, and always in patterns that grew more complex the deeper we went into the woods. Each symbol felt like a warning, a reminder that we didn't belong here. By the time we reached the third symbol, the trail was no longer a trail at all. The ground had become uneven, with roots and rocks jutting out of the earth at unnatural angles. The trees were taller, their trunks wider, and the canopy had thickened, blocking out much of the remaining sunlight. We couldn't see the path ahead of us, only more trees and the looming shadows between them. It was then that we realized the worst of it. The markers we had passed weren't there anymore. We couldn't find the next symbol or the next sign. The trail had disappeared. We had wandered off course, but the deeper we went, the more the forest seemed to twist and contort around us, keeping us from finding our way back. I suggested we turn around, but Sarah, ever the optimist, insisted that we could push on and find our way to the end. We kept walking, but the forest grew denser with each step, and the symbols became more ominous. Some seemed to glow faintly in the dusk, while others began to pulse, as if they were alive. "I don't like this," I muttered, my voice barely a whisper as I felt the weight of the trees closing in around us. "You're just tired," Sarah replied, her voice tense but trying to remain steady. "We'll be fine. Just a little further." But I wasn't sure we would be fine. Something felt horribly wrong. As we moved deeper into the woods, I noticed something unsettling. There were no sounds anymore. No animals scurrying, no wind rustling through the leaves. It was as if all life had been sucked out of the forest, leaving only an unnatural, suffocating silence. My skin crawled. The air felt heavier with every breath, thick and oppressive. The ground under our feet began to shift. The earth became soft, almost sponge-like. And then, with a sickening jolt, the trail beneath us collapsed into a pit, a deep, black hole that had seemingly appeared out of nowhere. We both froze. The forest around us had changed completely. Where once there had been the quiet order of a well-maintained trail, now there was nothing but an endless maze of trees and symbols. No matter which direction we turned, we were always facing the same place, the same eerie clearing where we had first encountered the pit. The trail was gone, and the trees had closed in around us, trapping us in a loop. A sudden rustling sound in the distance made me turn, and that's when I saw it, movement, unnatural and deliberate. Something was watching us. I grabbed Sarah's arm, pulling her toward me as a low growl filled the air. "We're not alone," I whispered, my heart hammering in my chest. The symbols on the trees seemed to shift as the ground trembled beneath our feet. The trees themselves started to twist, their trunks curling like grotesque fingers. We were being hunted, and the forest itself was alive, bending reality to its will. As we tried to run, the forest shifted again, always keeping us in the same spot, always leading us back to the same place. The growls grew louder, the shadows darker, and I realized the truth: there was no way out. We were trapped in the forest's endless loop, stalked by whatever dark force had power over this place. The last thing I remember before everything went black was Sarah's scream as something from the shadows reached out for us, its form shifting in and out of the trees. Now, the only thing left is the faint whispers of the forest, calling to anyone foolish enough to wander too deep. And I can only hope that someone, somewhere, will find this warning before they too are lost to the endless trail. The forest waits. Thank you for watching Deadscape Diaries. If this story sent shivers down your spine, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more terrifying tales that will leave you questioning what lurks just beyond the edge of the world. And remember, if you're ever hiking through the woods and you notice the trail markers disappearing, turn back. Some trails are meant to stay untrodden. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes open.